Okay, this video is Viva nuts, and I'm talking about Viva longevity. So it's a very famous YouTube channel about nutrition and health topics, okay? The guy who makes it, his name's Chris. I don't know his last name, but he's a real smart guy. He previously worked in, with Steve Jobs or something on something I think I've heard him say. And anyway, so my question for this video is did he jump the shark? So to jump the shark is a metaphor relating to when Fonzie on the great TV show Happy Days. Back when I was a kid, we used to watch Happy Days with the Fonz. He's wearing his leather jacket while he's water skiing, and in the show he jumped over an enclosure where there was a shark to prove how brave he was. And so when you say somebody jumped the shark, it means they went so far over the top outrageous to the point where it was ludicrous. And in my personal opinion, Viva recommending omega-6 oils as being reasonably healthy food that should be part of a person's diet, I personally think that is a ridiculous statement. I think that he has jumped the shark. Okay, all right. And then also, he makes a big point that he only talks to serious researchers, and he interviewed Walter Willett, who is like the head of the Harvard School of Public Health, like one of the most prestigious jobs you could have in the whole world in public health. But in my personal opinion, I think Walter Willett is completely wrong about his diet recommendations. This is the Walter Willett healthy eating pyramid that I would call the Harvard clown diet. Okay, right in the foundation of his pyramid, right in the center of it, he puts healthy fats and oils, things like olive oil. That's insane. That's pure liquid fat. Okay, I come from the school of Kempner, Pritikin, McDougall, Esselstyn, Nelson Veg Source. Okay, it is the low-fat vegan diet that has cured almost all of the chronic Western diseases. Okay, I don't see cures coming from this stuff. Okay, I did the numbers. You can look at the video. I just released it a couple days ago called "The Numbers for the High-Fat Phony Diet," and giving them generous estimates. Okay, trying to be fair. Underestimating it, I still got their diet to be 37% fat. And I think if you're realistic about it, as they start delving into the Mediterranean diet, where, like in the last book of Plant Powered Plus by Will Bolshevitz, who's part of this school of nutrition, you could call them the Mediterranean, the plant-based Mediterranean diet, that they're not even purely vegan, a lot of them. They're slightly vegetarian, if you will, allowing some animal foods. Like in that book, he allowed fish, okay? In my personal opinion, I think that's a big mistake for health. They're big proponents of nuts. They claim nuts are a wonderful health food, nuts and seeds. I can tell you, Jeff Nelson over at VegSource has several different videos about nuts and how they are bad for health. They're about 80% for fat. How could you go from saying all these problems about atherosclerosis and animal fat, saturated fat, when there's tons of fat in nuts and seeds and avocados? Okay, it's like, the Aristotelian syllogism. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. So it would be like saying fat is bad, but nut fat's okay, avocado fat's okay, oil fat's okay. No, I think that's completely illogical. And healthy fats, as described by Walter Willett's pyramid, include olive oil, canola oil, soy, which is about 40% fat. I don't see it on her flax, but a lot of those guys will recommend flax. I think flax is a mistake. That's another topic. I don't want to get into it right now. Sunflower oil. He talked about something called bitchin sauce, which had sunflower oil in it, and he said that was good. I think, in my opinion, these are terrible foods. I don't think you should eat these at all. I think these are red light foods, okay? Walter Willett's pyramid also allows dairy and milk and cheese and yogurt, fish, shellfish, poultry, allows alcohol. About the only thing that this forbids is processed food. And of course, processed food is terrible, but in my opinion, if I was teaching a nutrition class and a student recommended these things, I would flunk the student, a junior undergraduate student, because I think this is completely inappropriate. As Pritikin had said, fat is bad. McDougall, the higher the percentage of calories from fat, the fatter the population will become. McDougall. Fat is the biggest toxin in the Western diet. David Blankenhorn, whatever fat you ate, it didn't matter which type. The more fat, the more atherosclerosis was caused. All the oil studies that Esselstyn talks about lead you to the conclusion it should be no oil, not one drop. Okay? And then Chris talked about getting rid of potatoes from his diet, was my understanding of what he said. I think potatoes are a very healthy food, only 1% of calories from fat. Okay? And then he says he takes a statin. Well, I'm not surprised with eating all this fat. Okay, so what else came out? Like I said, he recommended some bitchin sauce with sunflower seed, omega-6 oil. So that's, I thought, was just an outrageous statement. There was a Ray Rosenman and Meyer Friedman study from the early 1960s which showed that PUFAs cause even worse blood sludging, more prolonged blood sludging, thickening of the blood, increasing blood viscosity, which predisposes to atherosclerosis, than does saturated fat. And saturated fat, of course, is very bad. Elevates your LDL cholesterol, strongly associated with atherosclerosis, primarily comes from animal foods, but also from coconut and a few other sources. Okay, the other thing I don't like about nuts is nuts have relatively high levels of advanced glycation end products, which are atherogenic, can be damaging to tissues, can be increase the risk of autoimmune disease. The higher the percentage of calories you're eating from fat, the more likely you are to have leaky gut, which in and of itself is prothrombotic, can cause neuroinflammation. It's bad. Okay, and the other thing I would say, birds of a feather flock together. The high-fat phonies promote each other, okay? Now, they never would interview me. They never speak to me. Nobody ever speaks to me. I didn't watch the entire thing of Viva Longevity because I had to go to bed. So I missed the last 30 minutes of it, but he didn't mention me in the first, the first half of it, and I don't think he'll ever mention. He never mentioned me. Because, the high-fat phonies had decided with me, basically, I have so few views that I'm basically irrelevant, okay? And, that's basically true. The high-fat phonies, they got millions of views. They are popular because industry loves them. I actually talked about it before. They are, they're as good as you can do with a vegan diet for selling stuff, okay? The bro science is much worse. Bro science sells all these supplements. The high-fat phonies actually have done a lot of good stuff to get people to eat more plants. And the high-fat phonies, a lot of them are very smart. They know a lot, okay? But in my personal opinion, they have sold out by promoting all these fat things. I'm going to say that, I never once heard a high-fat phony talk about Christianity. Okay, I'll talk about Christianity. I accept Jesus Christ as my Savior, and I believe I will be judged by Him, and I cannot lie to the pros, okay? I can make a mistake, but I don't make too many, and I'm telling the pros the truth as best I can. And I also think you have to have Christian ethics in health and in science, or everybody just sells out to lying, because you make so much more money by lying to the pros than you do when you tell them the truth, okay? So I thought this was nonsense on steroids, recommending omega-6 oils to people. Insane, okay? What else was talked about? And like I said, too, when he interviews Walter Willett, they're physically right next to each other, okay? Walter Willett would never in a million years talk to a lowlife like me. He would just consider me not worth his time, okay? So he's got big connections. I figured Chris was kind of rich because he worked with Bill Gates, but if he's rich, why would he sell out, okay? That makes me think he's not rich and he needs the money to sell out like that. Why would somebody do that? I'll bet he's not Christian, not that I know. I don't know anything about him, okay? And he's a pretty fit guy. He runs in triathletes, so he's got a lot of self-discipline and fitness to be able to do that. I'll give him credit for that. Okay, so what else? The Mediterranean diet is the Antichrist diet. It promises salvation, but it doesn't deliver. It's a joke compared to the Esselstyn diet. The Esselstyn compared himself in the Lyon study to an optimized version of the Mediterranean diet. Esselstyn's diet was more than 30 times better in terms of being that much more cardioprotective. Willett's food pyramid also recommended salmon as heart healthy. That's insane. Salmon is 50% fat and 50% protein. So it's bad. Tons of animal protein and tons of animal fat. That's terrible. Okay, and fish is full of mercury, okay, is associated with fish fog, cognitive decline, the Jane Hightower book on how eating fish causes brain damage, okay. Somebody, I had been told, I don't know for sure if it's true, but somebody told me that they had asked Chris to interview me, and he said I'm too divisive in the vegan community. Yeah, I tell the truth. I don't go along with the party line. I don't have any sponsors. His video, I think in just a day or so, has got 59,000 views. It's holy shit, I never had a video like that, okay? My video, I'll make this video. This video, what? It's going to get about 150, 200 views. All right, let's see what else. Like I said, Jeff Nelson's got lots of good videos about what a joke olive oil is. Omega-3s are associated with increased rates of atrial fibrillation, prostate cancer. I mean, I wouldn't eat those things, and I worry about them being rancid. Any poof is probably going to become rancid. Kempner's diet was 3% of calories from fat, cured almost all the Western diseases. Reversal of congestive heart failure, coronary artery disease, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, autoimmune disease. McDougall, same thing. His diet was up to 7% of calories from fat. My version of it is about less than 5%, in the ballpark of 5% of calories from fat. Esselstyn and Pritikin are less than 10% of calories from fat. Those diets cure a lot of chronic disease, okay? I've never heard of curing anything with a diet that's like around 37%, 40%. The high-fat phony diet, as I've seen it, is about that. Walter Willett says he typically eats nuts 3 times a day. That's a lot of nuts. He's got a lot of nuts to say that, okay? Okay, let's see. And I talked about Tetsumori Yamashima, the Japanese MD PhD, given the task, why are so many Japanese people becoming demented? He came to the conclusion it's because they've westernized their diet and they're especially eating a lot of oils, and it's the oils that are making them fat, sick, and stupid. Someone else said that's why they're having more baldness too. Baldness is multifactorial. Don't get me wrong, it's a problem for me too. Partly genetic, but they also think it can be due to lack of blood flow to the scalp and other things too. There's other things that can cause it too. It could also be from traction alopecia, wearing tight hats, which I used to do foolishly. Chris Knob, he's a real smart ophthalmologist. He's a big proponent of omega-6 oils are the worst thing in the Western diet. I also think people who eat an Indian diet, food from India, a lot of them, the reason they have health problems is because too much fried food. But, fried food is not the same as an oil that's not fried. But even if it's not fried, it's often been processed by the company and it's still rancid. That's why they put omega-3s in a radio-opaque container, tell you to store them in the fridge because they go rancid so fast. So anyways, I thought the video was ridiculous. I thought it was an embarrassment. It made me think that, I thought he'd said stupid things in the past about being very pro-Mediterranean diet, which is a bogus diet. But recommending omega-6, that is jumping the shark. I'm sorry, but for me, in my personal opinion, I think that is a major loss of credibility to recommend omega-6 cooking oils. It's like, how could you do that with a straight face? So anyways, there it is, pros. And don't get me wrong, I'm not some self-righteous saint. I want to be the best doctor in the world. And so for me, I kind of, in a sense, I'll be honest with you, Schadenfreude, I like the fact that all these guys are selling out because that means I don't have competition to be the best doctor in the world. I'm a Christian. I tell the truth. I don't make a damn cent on this BS. My channel's not monetized. I got no sponsors. Nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody wants to interview me. But I'll tell the truth. When I go before Jesus Christ, I can say, hey, I tried. Nobody listened to me. I was shadow banned and censored, but I did try to help the pros. So hopefully I'll get some points for that. Anyways, there it is.